Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the Enterprise Committee meeting here for August 15th. This is our regular meeting at 1:30 p.m. We will soon have quorum. We knew it would be tight today, but joining me at the dais at this time are council members Goodman and Reich, and we will get started with our agenda as set, and then hopefully in just a few minutes we'll also then be able to do our business and vote on things. So one of the items that we regularly put in this Enterprise Committee agenda is a City Coordinator's monthly update. With us today, we do have our City Coordinator, Nuria Rivera Vandermeide, but we're going to be giving the person giving this update is Ms. Danielle Shelton-Volchek, and welcome. And please come up to the stand and give us an update on things that are happening in the coordinator's office.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Chair Palmisano, committee members. My name is Danielle Shelton-Volchek. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the City Coordinator's Office. This past month, the City Coordinator hosted the Big Ten Cities Conference. It's a meeting of city managers where the Big Ten schools are located. It was an opportunity for all of us to come together and share data, measurements, successes, challenges, and questions regarding issues of affordable housing, transportation and mobility, race equity, and climate change, to name a few. There was also a discussion about the ease or lack thereof and effectiveness in benchmarking these areas. And what we'll do now is take those learnings and share them with staff as they try to move these issues forward within the enterprise. The City Coordinator attended the Rockefeller meeting this past month where they relayed their continued commitment to 100 RC, but in a different form. And they also indicated that they're sustaining their financial commitment to participating cities. They indicated that for the U.S. region, moving forward, there would be a pointed focus on jobs and the workforce, which we think complements our SREAP work fairly well, and also how to support jobs and workforce at the neighborhood levels. So we'll be hearing more about that and how they view that happening as they make their visits across the country, specifically to Minneapolis on August 26th. And we also wanted to let this committee know that we expect to have a draft resiliency strategy completed this fall, sometime in late November, early October. We also continue to lead the CIO search. There were a total of 125 applicants. We'll be convening a semi-finalist panel, and we hope to be announcing the new CIO in the next few weeks. The office also coordinated the first of 4 meetings of the 911 work group. In their first meeting, they analyzed data. And they hope to come back in late October, early November with recommendations pursuant to the criteria set out in the staff direction. We continue to convene the Racial Equity Steering Committee. For those of you who don't know, that committee is made up of various department heads and a representative from City Council in the Mayor's office. And we help the committee to shape their work in monitoring the progress and accountability of the race equity work across the enterprise. Specifically this month, the committee determined how it would support and uplift the work of SREAP, the process owners and the applicable departments as they attempt to operationalize the work in that plan. And more specifics about the intersection between the Racial Equity Steering Committee and SREAP will be detailed at a future Peace Committee meeting. The Coordinator's Office, once again, is assisting in this year's Business Day in City Hall. The tentative date is October 22nd, and we continue our communications with the Chamber. This year, it will be an afternoon event as opposed to a morning event, and it will cover topics of interest from community and staff, such as worker regulations, zoning, given the new comp plan and how that might be impacting businesses, and public safety. We continue to move the Trans Equity Summit forward. It will take place on September 26th at the Walker Arts Center. The keynote still needs to be finalized at this point. And finally, to kind of cap things off, I just wanted to uplift our farmers markets work that's happening through the city coordinator's office and led by Tamara Shway Downs. Minneapolis was highlighted in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal as having the second most farmers markets per capita among the 100 biggest cities in the United States. We were second to Washington, D.C. In the past weeks, our farmers markets, actually in the past couple of weeks, our farmers markets have recently played host to Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, and as well as U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar. And I actually would be remiss if I didn't mention the biggest thing that's going on with the coordinator's office is that our city coordinator is leaving. She has announced her departure, and so just off the cuff, we will miss her greatly, her leadership for staff and just the city in general. And so with that, we are trying to adjust to what will be a difficult transition for us emotionally, but we are very excited and happy for her. So that concludes the coordinator update. I'm available to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? I really have enjoyed getting to know the work of Ms. Down-Shway and the Homegrown Foods Council. I have not participated in it to the extent of one of my colleagues, Councilmember Goodman, who will be selling her pickles at today's East Isles Farmers Market on the mall. So I just wanted to give that plug.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And on a more serious note, our coordinator, Ms. Rivera Vandermeide, as you get closer to your departure date, we will start the official proceedings and ceremonial works of thanking you for your service. You have been quite instrumental, particularly in the past couple of years, specifically with the Navigation Center, with so many tough things that we've struggled with at City Hall. And due to your help, we've been able to have a coordinated approach to that between departments and with our city's values and goals in mind. So thank you very much for that. I don't see any other questions or comments from my colleagues, so thank you, Ms. Shelton-Volchek. Thank you for giving the coordinator's update. Our colleague Abdi Warsami has just joined us, so I will read through our agenda as printed, and then also move to add this walk-on item that we talked about in agenda setting, but it will be the resolution for establishing the Futuro Latino Empowerment Commission. We do have the opportunity to have a short presentation on that. We have Mr. Mariano Espinoza here today to do that, so I will read this agenda and add this as a walk-on item and a discussion item, item number 8. Today on our agenda, we are moving to postpone the department head and deputy job classification study one more cycle to the September 19th meeting. For consent items, we have 6 consent items. The first is a contract with ShotSpotter for support and maintenance of their gunshot location system. Item number 2 is a contract with SecuroNet for a virtual safety network for crime investigations. Item number 3 is a contract with Futuro for our ERP finance reporting services. Item number 4 is a contract with CenturyLink Sales for voice and data telecommunications. I'm told that also is inclusive of our new building, our new service building. Item number 5 is a contract with DRT Benefits for COBRA administration, continuation benefits billing, and the Affordable Care Act compliance measures. Item number 6 is a contract amendment with Deloitte for our actuarial and consulting services related to our city's employees benefits program. I will move all of these for approval and happy to take off any item as my colleagues see fit. I don't see any, so move to approve those items. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. I also, I'm sorry, I should have taken a vote to amend the agenda for the walk-on item, so I will do that. I will put forward that motion and ask my colleagues for their approval. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. That then leads us to move to receive and file the city coordinator's monthly update. I will move that to receive and file our monthly coordinator's update. on the resilience, sustainability, arts, and the additional work as brought forward today. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Our last item is not on the printed agenda, but it is the resolution to establish the Futuro Latino Empowerment Commission. It has some other housekeeping items within it, and I will invite our city clerk himself, Mr. Casey Carl, to help inform us of the details.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Casey Carl. As you said, I have the privilege of serving as city clerk, and as the council is aware, one of the functions of my office is the administration of the city's appointed boards and commissions, which includes not only coordination of the open appointments policy, but also the work that's involved in establishing new advisory bodies. And it's in that capacity I'm here today to bring forward a proposal to establish a new advisory body, the Futuro Latino Empowerment Commission. First, allow me to apologize for the late submission of this item to the committee. We have worked hard to meet agenda publication deadlines, but we're unable to get the final components of the draft resolution completed. I appreciate the chair's willingness to allow us to bring the item forward as a late addition, especially recognizing that the Enterprise Committee meets only once per month. This is a standing committee through which the clerk's office reports on matters related to the administration of boards and commissions, including the creation of this new advisory body. So on behalf of the team working on the proposal, Madam Chair, we express our appreciation. Staff has provided printed copies of the request for committee action and the draft resolution, which has been distributed at your desk. Copies are also available for the members of the public at the clerk's station, and we will add it to the marked agenda immediately after the conclusion of this meeting. I also need to recognize and express appreciation to Councilmember Cano, who has been the driving force behind the proposal. We appreciate her leadership in bringing us to this point, and I also appreciate the work of her aides, Dylan Kesty and Graham Faulkner, for helping shepherd the proposal through the various channels and required internal reviews. To be clear, this is not the first such body created in the city of Minneapolis. The city has had in the past an advisory body formed to reflect the needs of the city's Latinx community. That prior body was established formally by resolution adopted in 1999, but that body has been inactive for almost a decade. The current effort, this proposal that's before the committee now, is to reestablish a new, revitalized, and more focused advisory body to elevate the priorities and needs of the Latinx community. This work will include the formation of a specific Latino agenda, and among other issues, the advisory group will be asked to consider access to affordable housing, promoting economic development, strengthening public safety and connections with the community, advancing social and environmental justice, and a host of other issues. As provided under Section 14.180 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances, staff has drafted a resolution that accomplishes a number of specific actions. First, it rescinds the prior resolutions which established the original Latino Advisory Committee in 1999, and it establishes a new body to be named the Futuro Latino Empowerment Commission. This body is to consist of 20 seats, 17 of which will be voting members appointed by the mayor and council, 3 of which will be non-voting members reflecting specific interests aligned with the mission of this new body. The terms and other provisions related to the membership are set forth in the draft resolution. Once appointed, the commission will conduct regular meetings, which will be open to the public pursuant to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. One of the first tasks for the new commission is the formation of a Latino agenda. This agenda, as I've already indicated, will be the focal point for the commission's work. It will be centered in the needs and priorities of the Latinx community around a host of issues and will address city policies and programs. And the commission will report annually on its work and achievement of its goals to the committee of the whole. One of the things truly unique about this commission, and which was a strong priority for Councilmember Cano, is that this body is to reserve 4 of its 17 voting seats for youth. And that speaks to the importance of younger generations in empowering their voices as part of the work of uplifting the Latino community. As proposed, that means that almost 1/4 of the membership of this new advisory body will be represented by youth. The Neighborhood and Community Relations Department will support the commission in its work, and of course, the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department has been active in developing this proposal. So it's my pleasure to introduce that department's director, David Rubidor, to provide a few more details about the proposed commission.
Thank you. Before we move to Mr. Rubidor, Councilmember Cano was asked to speak on city business and cannot be here today. She might join us by the end, but are there any questions on the record-keeping changes or procedures related to this new commission? That would be an appropriate question for Mr. Carl. There aren't, so thank you. Welcome, Mr. Rubidor.
Chair Palmisano and committee members, thank you. And again, thank you to the committee chair for allowing us to walk this agenda item on the agenda today. Mariano Espinoza will be up in a minute to give a little bit more details about the exact proposal, but I did want to take a few minutes just to give a little more context to what we are bringing forward. As a department that supports the city's community engagement work, we are pleased to bring you the establishment of the Futuro Latino Engagement Commission. As Mr. Carl mentioned, the former Latino Advisory Committee was up and running a number of years ago, but actually stopped operating about 9 years ago. However, robust community building and authentic engagement with the Latinx community has continued during that time period. Under the leadership of then Council Vice President Lilligren, NCR created what was called the Latino Engagement Task Force. That was a temporary body that was really intended to continue to build and support connections with the Latinx community and elevate issues within the community, while at the same time advising the city and the department on how to best move forward with a permanent solution to having an ongoing advisory committee for the Latinx community. The LETF, as we had come to know and to call it, was highly successful and really supported a partnership between the city and the Latinx community. And then during that time period, we moved forward on a couple major initiatives. One of which was called the Minnesota Prosperity Act, which was the state of Minnesota passing changing the higher education bill to allow undocumented youth access to higher education in Minnesota. The LETF really led that partnership with the city. At the same time, we also worked with the LETF on supporting the DACA implementation of DACA, a Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, through both information as well as a resource center at the Mercado Central in South Minneapolis. Being short-term, the LETF has come to an end, and building on the lessons learned through that process, we have really based the proposal that is coming before you today on it's reestablishing a permanent advisory body to the city of Minneapolis for the Latinx community. More than ever, our Latinx community is under tremendous pressures, and the need for ongoing connection with the city is more important than ever. So at this time, Chair Palmisano, if I could, invite Mr. Espinoza to the podium.
Thank you. Mr. Espinoza.
Buenas tardes, Presidenta Palmisano y miembros del comité. Good afternoon, Chair Palmisano and members of the committee. My name is Mariano Espinoza, and I'm the Latino community specialist for the city of Minneapolis. Every day, I use public transportation. I live in South Minneapolis, and I interact with members of the Latino community. I answer questions, and it's with great joy and pleasure today to me do this presentation in behalf of the Latino community and for the Latino community. Since 1980, the Latino population has grown by over 900% in Minneapolis. We all have seen the transformation. If you have drive along Lake Street, you have seen all the changes. South Minneapolis is where the highest concentration of Latinos live in Minneapolis, and South Minneapolis and the city of Minneapolis is becoming the landmark for many Latinos, not just in Minnesota, but across the Midwest. Central, Midtown, and East Phillips are the top 3 neighborhoods with the highest concentrations of Latinos in Minneapolis. Not many people is aware of the economic contributions, and I just wanted to highlight that the purchasing power of the Latino community in 2012 was over $5 billion, and especially now when we are seeing many negative news, it is important to recognize that the undocumented community is paying taxes, and also something that I like to share many often in presentations is that if we would have to remove the undocumented population from the state of Minnesota and Minneapolis, there will be a collapse in the economy, and it will be very difficult for all of us to continue to have what we have in place. This is a very difficult time for all of us. This morning, I received a text when I was having a meeting with the city and the county of San Diego, And a person, a legal resident, was asking me what to do because he had a traffic violation ticket. And this is a person who has legal status in the country and told me that he has fear. And he told me, I don't know what to do. So I just want to put that in front because fear is something that it is the hardest and the most critical issue. Along with that, immigration is interconnected with everything. Education and healthcare, housing and driver license are the top issues right now with the Latino community. So we are a very normal community. We just have to deal with the immigration issues. I have very limited time to make the case. And I want to use a quote from a resident who told me the other day that he said, Minneapolis is my home. I love my community, the parks and the diversity. He said, but I have fear. I have fear. I go to work terrorized because I don't know if this is the last day I'm going to see my family. That is a reflection of the community. That is a reflection of what it's like to be a Latino person, documented, undocumented, with any status or no status. And one of the reasons is because since the Trump administration was elected, the number of people detained on a daily basis has increased by a lot. Every single day, about 44,000 people are detained under immigration charges. So everybody is having this conversation in our community. More negative news are being displayed on a daily basis. So the community is having this fear. So I want to tell you that this is the opportunity for us, for the city of Minneapolis, to formalize the relationship with the Latino community. There is a business along Lake Street in the corner of Lake and Bloomington, and has a little sign that says, "Make tacos, not walls." So this is our opportunity for all of us to build bridges. This is an opportunity for us to create the Futuro Latino Empowerment Commission. With that, we can foster the relationships and create partnerships with the Latino community. Using our experience, we can advise the city on issues and programs and services that we need as Latino community. We can help the city of Minneapolis and make the recommendations to set up the Latino agenda. And many people in the community have shared with me that this is home, and they say we can together work with the city of Minneapolis and we can transform the community. And I think this is our opportunity to make Minneapolis the most welcoming city in this country. Many people, Minneapolis is becoming this international city. You won't believe that across this continent, from Mexico to Ecuador, there are people that go back home wearing Vikings, Twins, Minneapolis jerseys with pride and with joy. They know that this is home. So our loved ones are watching us. Our loved ones are asking us, when are you coming back home? And many times we say, Minneapolis is our home. So I'm here today to ask you to pass the resolution to reestablish the Futuro Latino Empowerment Commission. This such opportunity that it's a difficult time. It's a very difficult time, but with pride, we can work together with the Latino community, and we can empower the Latino community to set up the Latino agenda for the city of Minneapolis. And thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Warsame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, this is great, but what is the Empowerment Commission? What does it do? What's the makeup? Can you give us an update on that? You just gave us an overview, but what is the commission and how does the commission work?
For the details, I'll invite up Mr. Carl.
Madam Chair, to Councilmember Warsami's inquiry, I did a insufficient job at explaining this when I was in front of you at the beginning. The commission is being proposed as a replacement to an existing but inactive advisory body to the council. The purpose of the advisory council, original in 1999, and through various permutations, and the purpose of this commission is to provide a focal point to uplift the voice of the Latinx community to the council to provide advice on a host of issues. As proposed, it would include 20 members. So those 20 members are divided into two categories. There would be 17 members that vote, so a voting membership of 17 members. Those 17 members are proposed to be allocated one from each ward. Not that they have to live in that ward, but that each ward council member would have an appointment to bring forward, so a total of 13. Those 13 ward-based appointments would be complemented by 4 to be done by the mayor and confirmed by the council. Those 4 are to bring a broader representation of the entire Latinx community that complement the 13 brought forward by the city council. And of those 17, 4 seats are to be reserved for youth representatives. So within the 17 that are brought forward by the council and the mayor collectively, 4 would need to be youth representatives. Then complementing those 17 voting members would be a total of 3 non-voting members. Those 3 non-voting members are to further expand the scope and sort of perspective of the membership. One of those non-voting seats would be reserved for a representative from Somos, which is our employee resource group here for employees who also come from and bring that perspective of the Latinx community, and then 2 non-voting members who would represent other governmental partners. So, for example, this could include, but is not necessarily limited to, Hennepin County, the Park and Recreation District, other governmental agencies like the Met Council, with whom the city does business on a regular basis, so at the local level. So those would be the 20 members to be appointed. We would be, once the resolution is approved by council, we would then stagger the first initial appointments like we do with other advisory bodies. So we would hope that by the end of this year, we'd bring forward the initial appointments and work with council and mayor to get that done. I mentioned that the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department would support their work. One of the first things they'll need to work on is the adoption, or at least the creation and subsequent adoption of what we're calling the Latino agenda. And that agenda then becomes a focal point for what are the issues that this group would bring forward, and what do they want to focus on, and what do they want to really spend their collective energies and efforts on in terms of bringing forward advice to the council and the mayor on those programs and policies that we have as a city that touch upon or impact the Latinx community. And so that Latino agenda would be the focal point, I think, for their initial scope of work and bringing that forward to the council. The resolution requires that at least once a year they bring forward a report to the council through the committee of the whole that explains their accomplishments and work against those objectives. That's a high-level summary, I think, but I hope I answered the question.
Well, thank you very much. You did answer my question, and I'm very supportive. And if there's no other questions, I'd happily move approval of the item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you to Mariano as well for your presentation.
I did have this question that, similar to yours, was what is this committee going to do? And I invite Mr. Espinoza to give his interpretation of what he thinks this is going to do. What I heard from Mr. Carl is that they will be adopting an agenda, the Latino agenda, bringing their advice and also their ability to communicate broadly about the aspects of this agenda and how we drive them forward, and to help us keep those needs in front of us as a city council. Is there anything you wanted to add, Mr. Espinoza?
Chair Palmisano, council members, there are many issues in the Latino community, and I don't want to speak in behalf of all the Latino community, but one of the ideas and one of the goals is to bring people together. And I wasn't here in the past. I don't want to speak for the past and why did work the All Latino Advisory Committee, but we have to support our members of this new commission to be able to have success. So one of the goals is to support them and guide them, and through the next year, our hope and our goal is that they will be able to set up the Latino agenda based on the community needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Espinoza, you and I have helped in organizing with our undocumented community for over a decade. Today in 2019, this goes way beyond our undocumented community. The fear, the insecurity, and the instability felt by our Latino community as a whole is nothing short of staggering. And I think this is one small thing we can do that shows support and gives power to Latinos in our city. I believe that the appropriate action to recommend here is to recommend our committee's support of this resolution, knowing that it will come forward and be before council actually on September 13th. So one cycle from now, we will be skipping a cycle at that full council meeting on September 13th in recognition of Latino Heritage Month. Is that correct? So I will go ahead and move that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. With this, our agenda is complete. Thank you for your participation today, and we are adjourned.